Hey, Presales Collective, it's your host, James Kaikis, and today I'm going to be joined by Gokul Sridharan, Manager, Sales Engineering at Microfocus. The topic of today's episode is building technical enablement for the community. Today's episode is a very special one because Gokul and a dozen other pre-sales folks created a technical enablement for the community. So many hours of hard work went into creating this technical enablement that we just announced recently, and it's been amazing to see the reception of this. So today we're going to talk about that project, talk about why you should look into the technical enablement, and talk about Gokul and the project team's journey throughout. It's a very exciting episode. I think for Presales Collective, we're really happy to be giving back to the community through this technical enablement training. And so we hope you enjoy today's episode. Gokul, good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great, James. How about you?
I'm great. I'm glad to have you on the PreSales Podcast.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate you getting me on this opportunity. It's really exciting to talk to the fellow pre-sales folks.
I agree. And today's topic is going to be a good one. But before we get there, let's talk a little bit about you. You had actually a work move recently. Is that right?
Yeah, I just moved into the AppSec side within my organization. So my career overall, I've been in the DevOps side in the last 6 years. And I think security is an interesting space in the current scenario. And interestingly enough, I got a move pretty recently into the security world.
Congratulations. What was the main reason you decided to switch teams?
I think the AppSec business, specifically in security, as we talk about in today's world, there's a lot of companies building apps, production apps from different ranges. Look at Best Buy, they have these crazy consumer apps. So security is becoming more of a concern for everyone. And I think that's one of the main reasons that I made that move, decided that I'll take that role.
That's great. Congratulations on that. So before we get into today's topic, I want to understand your pre-sales journey. So many of us stumble into this career. What about you? Did you stumble into this career?
It's a very interesting story. I started off as a software engineer and then, came into the US for a master's. So I did my master's degree. I was looking for a job, did a master's in IT management, really was looking for something that's customer facing. I'd always wanted to be that. And I think it's important that if you're customer facing, you get to talk to a lot of new people, get to interact. I was looking for a job and, I just went to this interview. I saw this VP of sales and he was just collecting resumes. I got his cell phone number. You have to hustle in order to get a job because it's very competitive. And I think either you got to be the A+ rating in your 4.0 GPA or you got to hustle your way into a job. So I did the second thing and I got his number. I reached out to him in messages. Every week I followed up. He loved that passion. He loved the perseverance and follow up. He said, hey, I like your perseverance and I'd like to get you to an interview. So we went through the interview process and, had to do a demo and we went through the whole process. At the end of the day, we decided that was the opportunity. And that's when I started my pre-sales career with CA as an associate consultant.
I have always admired your persistence as well. So that's really great. That's your career. And you've been in pre-sales for how long now?
I've been in pre-sales right about 8 years at this point.
I'm looking forward to today's topic today because you have put a lot of time and energy into helping the pre-sales community. And so we're going to be talking about building technical enablement for the community, which is obviously one of the cooler projects that we've done with the Presales Collective. So first off, I need to thank you very much for bringing this up and running this project for Presales Collective.
No, thank you so much. I think you have also been instrumental because I need a channel, right? I think at the end of the day, you can have thousands of ideas. You got to have a channel in order to bring that idea into life. And that's what Presales Collective is. It's for the community. It's for people who are there as part of the community. So I wanted to do something that's really helping the overall growth of people. And I think this is a great way to do that.
Let's take a step back. So what drew you to get involved with Presales Collective? Because we've got to know each other pretty early in Presales Collective's journey.
So I've always wanted to start something like this, a user group where multiple people can interact with each other. I think that's when I saw, hey, okay, someone started what I wanted to start. And I reached out to you on Slack. We talked. It was a interesting conversation. And I think you guys were doing something that someone else has not done. So I thought I should give it a shot and give my full energy into that. And that's how I got acclimated to Presales Collective. From then on, I think we've had thousands of members join, which is a really cool thing for you guys, right? You and Yuji. It's a fantastic journey that you've gone through. We appreciate everything that you've done so far.
Well, I appreciate that as well. Gokul, you have been obviously involved in a number of items, and you're actually leading our efforts in Dallas. So why are you trying to make an impact in that local geo?
I think one of the things is the Dallas market is a very huge growing market with a lot of tech companies and non-tech companies hiring pre-sales engineers. And there is a lot of room for people to interact with each other, get to know each other. And that's why I want to focus a lot on the Dallas market.
So Gokul, let's talk about this technical enablement. Where did this idea originate from?
One of the things that I've always seen pre-sales folks focus on is their product. If you're in Salesforce, you focus on Salesforce's product. If you're in Microfocus, you focus on Microfocus's product, and that's it. So your knowledge revolves around the product and the integration surrounding the product. How does it interact with other applications? However, there's basics that are required for a successful SE. And that can be around learning APIs, learning networking, learning modernization of applications. So there are multiple things that are in the ecosystem that we need to be aware of as pre-sales engineers to build credibility in front of customers. And I think that's where I was seeing there is a need for people to understand what are some of the core technologies. Nothing too major, basics of these core technologies so they can build upon that. And that's when we started off this idea of training people.
That's a really good perspective. And so for you, why do you think that pre-sales folks need to have at least a basic understanding of some of these different technical topics?
Pre-sales folks are generally thought leaders, right? And I think if you're a thought leader or if you're a consultant and you want to build credibility with the customer, it's important that you go and take that step forward. And being able to consult with the customer, you cannot consult without knowing what their IT infrastructure is. And if you don't understand, what their networking is or what their applications are and how they perform, you really cannot consult. Whether it's a tech product or non-tech product, you still need to have an overall understanding.
That's what I want to ask you about, because you're going to have some people that are listening to this podcast like, oh, I saw the technical enablement, but that's just not for me. So do you think pre-sales professionals need to have basic understandings of technical know-how, regardless of if their product focuses in that area or not?
It's a very good question, right? Because when we were building this content, I had a couple of MarTech folks. So marketing tech, right? These are not core technology focus areas, but their products are. At the end of the day, their products have to interact with someone else's product. So you have to call an API. You have to see, okay, if there's any network permissions required. How is the security of that API? Is it pulling sensitive data? So you got to understand different aspects of it, right? It's really, I think it's critical irrespective of the industry that you focus on to know the basics at least.
My question for you is, there are so many different technical trainings out there in the world. Why should people focus on the Presales Collective technical enablement?
In this specific technical enablement training, what we have done is related it back to pre-sales. All the trainings that you see on Udemy, it goes really deep down technical. We made it so you can be dangerous enough. And I think that's the important factor, a technical training to be dangerous enough. You don't have to know everything if you are a pre-sales engineer, but you got to know a certain level. And I think at least try to ask those questions on why is something important for pre-sales while I was doing those trainings.
Can you elaborate on what topics are in the technical enablement?
So we first off started with, APIs, really important because every application interacts with another. And it's really critical to understand how APIs work. That interaction aspect is what triggered us towards that topic. And then app modernization, right? So we talk about Docker, Kubernetes, or microservices. What are all of those, right? I think it's important to understand, at least in a basic level, what those are in today's world. And networks. Network is another important topic because you and me are sitting in Zoom and interacting with each other. It's only possible if the network is strong. So being able to understand the basics of network is critical as well. And then the security aspect, right? So security, like I said earlier on, is a very critical thing to focus on. So those are all like some of the topics that we have focused in the training specifically.
I like that we chose those topics, right? Because I think they're the most applicable to the general profession of pre-sales. I want to talk more about the project, Gokul, because you ran a pretty big project here, which was really impressive. So how long did this project take from start to finish?
I think it took somewhere around 3 to 4 months. Like if I have to be, we thought we'll get it done in 3 weeks, but it took 3 months. And I think thank you to several people who were involved in this project, right? It takes a village to complete something. And truly, it took a village for this to be completed.
How many people would you say were involved in this?
At least 10 to 12 people, right? I think it's really important to thank all of them for their contribution, and especially the people who contributed to the content.
And creating that content took time. So tell us a little bit about the project experience generally. Walk us through the thought process from the beginning to really the recording and the application. So
I had to build a template. So everything starts with something formal. You got to build a template. I think the first thing I did, even before starting the project, was built a project plan, a pseudo project plan, and shared it with you guys, James and Yuji. And I think you guys saw that it's interesting. So I went and built that project plan. And after that, I had to build a pseudo template for people to fill out. Then what I did is went to Slack. Slack has 2,000 plus people and just easy to interact. So I just opened up this idea and I said, hey, if you're interested to contribute to content, and if you're technical and you think it's something that you're interested, reach out. And I had at least 10 people reach out the first day.
It's pretty incredible how many people reached out and raised their hand and said, hey, I want to help out, right?
Exactly. With 10 people reaching out, so what I did is took all of those 10 people, put them into a Slack channel, and that Slack channel slowly grew. At the end of the day, when we completed the project, we had about 63 members or something like that. There is a lot of people who are interested in trainings, and I think that's what we could find out through that process. So I had built a series of topics, like I mentioned earlier. I'd called for volunteers for those projects. And luckily enough, I got 5 volunteers who had the time commitment and some did not, right? And that's what happens in a project. You plan for something and it doesn't happen. So I had to search again for a couple of more people to help out with the project overall. So we could go and figure that out and get it done. But I asked every single person who volunteered to build that template, to share that overall PowerPoint. And it took time. Everything took about 2 weeks per topic. So that's where the 4 months came from. So at the end of 2 weeks, I would set up a deadline and, connect with them. And we just started recording. I said, let's not worry about what the output is. Let's start recording. If something goes south, let's stop and re-record. But luckily enough, 4 out of the 5 I didn't have to re-record. It was so natural, like how we are doing and interacting today, right? It was so natural in the interaction. We got so ingrained into those topics and talked specifically about pre-sales. So that's how the overall project came to light and the overall idea as well.
I think you can definitely tell the comfortability and passion that you have with the other presenters in each of the trainings, right? It makes it more digestible and makes it more conversational. So I thought you did a really great job there. Let me ask you, what was the toughest part?
It's the coordination. You have your day job to do, and you got to coordinate with different people and their timings, and they may be in different time zones. So it's really important to work through that. So if you're planning something like this that's so huge, make sure people are available and ensure that they commit to those times. That is the most difficult part to get done, especially given everyone has their own day job.
The funny part about all of this is that we all still have our day jobs while we do Presales Collective work. And so it gets to be pretty hard. I definitely understand that perspective. And I know that we did have some challenges with scheduling and some people who committed but couldn't at the end of the day end up delivering the training. So, but that's happens. And we had other people raise their hand, which was fantastic. So let me ask you this. Would you do anything differently with this project, looking at it in hindsight?
I think maybe getting more people to commit up front before even starting to record, get a few volunteers instead of one volunteer. So you always got to have a fallback or failback option, right? And I think that's something that I would have focused on, is to get 2 or 3 volunteers per project, have a failback option just in case one wasn't available.
Definitely can agree to that. And maybe let's talk about what was rewarding about this project. How are you feeling now that the project is actually launched and live and technical enablement is out there for pre-sales folks to digest?
I think the core of Presales Collective is to help each other and build a community. And that's precisely what I feel I've done in this project, and relates to the core values of what you're trying to do in Presales Collective. For me, it's really important that I help someone in my career. Whatever I have learned, along with whatever the other folks in the community have learned, if we can share that to the broader community and people who are joining newly, especially, right? They may not be aware of so many different things, and it will be important. One of the feedbacks that I saw from the LinkedIn post was, this is really helpful for me. And I think that's a rewarding factor for me, right? At the end of the day, if people like it and they find use of this, and that's the end all be all of this.
I think that's why we both get along, because people ask, why do you put all the time and energy into this? And it's the same for you. Is giving back and helping people is very rewarding, and getting something out of it. And how many people from the community have come back to tell us, hey, the technical training really helped me with this, or Presales Collective helped me get a job here. That is what it's all about. And I love that you said that. And I definitely agree with the rewarding component. Let's talk about a little bit more on why people should take this enablement course. Give us your pitch, Gokul.
I think it's very simple. If you are someone who is interested to learn and understand some of the core topics around technology, and if you want to learn the basics, this course is for you. Please join. Learning is a lifetime thing. Everyone needs to continuously learn. So if there's something that you have not learned so far, these topics around networking, different microservices and applications, this topic is for you, and this training is for you. So spend the time, put 5 hours in, you will get a nice certificate. The what's in it for me is in the certificate. We want this to be a basic certificate that you can share across your platforms, use it in your interviews, say, I've gone through this training, 5 hours of basic training. And that is the key factor.
I really like in the beginning how you've said that this is really kind of a starting point, because the idea behind this training and this enablement is for people to take this, learn some basics, and understand what they might have more interest in, and then go take more sophisticated and advanced trainings through different mediums.
Exactly. I cannot do something for 5 hours and say, hey, this is all you need to learn. I think this is a good starting point for anyone who wants to learn more. Like I said, learning is a lifetime thing, and we all need to continuously evolve and learn. So this is a good starting point for anyone who wants to do that.
And so the last question before we get to our recap is I want to put you on the spot. I know that you're very persistent. The perseverance comes through and you want to work on another project. I think the best part about finishing this technical enablement is you literally said, hey, it's done. I'm ready for my next project. There was no delay. I was like, let's celebrate this. What's your next big idea for PSC? We're putting you on the spot.
So the next interesting thing, and I think we talked about this a little bit, but I'm happy to open this up. It's going to be around a demo day for pre-sales and a potential hackathon. So we have to look at legal concerns around hackathon, but the demo day is definitely an option that we can focus on. We could find a use case potentially that's common to every industry that's not related to your products and build a hackathon around it. So that's what I'm working on. A very interesting project, especially for pre-sales techies out there. If you're interested in volunteering, shoot me a message. I will also formally announce this pretty soon once James, Yuji, and I agree on what this project's going to be. Then we can definitely connect.
That's how we're going to recap this section. So I really appreciate that. I'm excited for the next project. I have 2 questions for you before we sign off. The first one is always, what's your favorite thing about the pre-sales role?
Just talking to customers. I think it's important to talk to customers all day long. Even if you're a manager, if you're a leader in the organization, you signed up to this role for something that's magical that you do with customers day in and day out. And that's what's important for me. I like to talk to customers. And that's what I love about pre-sales.
What advice do you have for people who want to become more technical?
Like I said, learning is a lifetime thing. It's important to put some energy and thought. We all have day jobs, we all have time commitments, and you got to throw some amount of time into learning every single day. And that's when we get better.
Gokul, I really appreciate the time. Thank you so much for all your work on technical enablement. I think it's been a great project. It's been fantastic to see the community come together. The reception and the signups enablement are already through the roof. So it's great to see. And thanks for giving back to the community. Really enjoy working with you.
Thank you, James. I think without you guys' support and the broader community who have supported to create this project, we couldn't have done this.
All right, Gokul, we're looking forward to the next project. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
Okay, Presales Collective, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. I got to just thank Gokul so much for his energy, his passion, his perseverance, his persistence in helping the presales community out. I've got to know Gokul since the beginning of Presales Collective, and I've really admired how passionate he is about helping people out. He's been very focused on ensuring that we are giving back to the community, and this technical enablement program really does that. And we're really excited to see what comes out of the technical enablement program. We've had great survey feedback so far, and we're really hoping that this will make an impact on people and their careers. I want to give a big thank you to Skylar Kozad, Pavan Arkupala, Wayne Brown, Aaron Matza, Jose Romero, John Thompson, Peter Doro, Kelsey S., CJ Brewer. Thank you all so much for your help with the Technical Enablement Program. We are so thankful and appreciative of your efforts. Okay, Presales Collective, we hope you enjoyed today's episode. I always ask this favor. Please like the podcast. If you're enjoying this podcast, if you can give us a rating, we would really appreciate that. Otherwise, we will see you next week.